Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome to another wonderful episode of Soul Sessions with Creative Mind.
Yeah, we've been doing a series on spiritual influences in coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And last time we talked about Rumi, which is one of my favorites.
Yes.
So cool. But we wanted to do one particularly on yoga, because yoga has been such a big influence.
So popular in the U.S., all around the world.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the stats. So 36 million Americans practice yoga.
Wow.
And worldwide, it's about 2 billion people.
And you're talking about yoga, like taking yoga classes, or?
Pretty much, yeah. All kinds of yogas, but yeah, the what we know in California is...
There's a yoga center on every corner.
That's right. Yes. And we love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's such the health benefits are remarkable, and there's really good research now that shows what the benefits are.
Mm-hmm.
So things like arthritis, heart disease, high blood pressure, including mood disorders, anxiety, depression, all this stuff is improved by practicing yoga.
Wonderful.
So we should teach this stuff in kindergarten, basically.
Yes, you used to have yoga in kindergarten.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because, if you think about what ails Western society, it's primarily lifestyle diseases like heart disease and obesity. That it's about changing your lifestyle, and yoga is definitely about working, with your mind body, so that you're actively focusing on generating your own health. Not waiting to get sick and then going to the doctor to get fixed, but saying, how can I stay healthy and focused? Yeah.
And so one of the things that we're trying to do is talk about coaching and how yoga specifically fits with Jungian coaching.
Yeah, it's an interesting connection, right?
So before we go into what the yoga and deeper into that, let's just define what Jungian coaching is for those people that don't know. A lot of people have learned of Jungian theory, psychology, and it's they think of it as more analysts, the psychoanalysts, and the shadow work. A lot of people are familiar with that term, and it's been kind of moved into more of taken into more of a therapy mode. And what we've done is we created a method of working with Jung's theory in a coaching model. And so how would you describe Jungian coaching? What does a person experience in Jungian coaching? What's the goal?
Yeah, so if you read his collected works, which is a huge collection of volumes, but in there Jung is talking about individual development throughout the lifespan. And he was particularly interested in what happens after you reach adulthood and you're ready to really create meaning in your life.
That's interesting, because a lot of focus in therapy is about your childhood development, with the stages of mating, not mating, but
we
binding.
know where your mind is at.
No, mating is part of it, but how those early life experiences impact our life. And so a lot of it is looking at the developmental stages early on. And Jung saw a very incredible part of our life is midlife, when we are in this stage of individuation.
Yeah, so individuation is the key to understanding Jung's work from the coaching model. Because most people have heard about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the very top is this need for self-actualization. So we can think of Jung's work predating that idea. His idea was that we have a need for individuation, which is self-actualization, but at a deeper level.
So the way I would describe it is that early in life, we're conditioned by our ego, and we have these patterns. We all know, those of us who do personal development, you know about your patterns and your habits and unconscious drives. And then at midlife, we get a chance to basically have a do-over and break away from those old patterns. And what's different with Jungian coaching is that we're not rewiring those patterns or making it better patterns or building up the ego. We're actually creating something completely new. And we're really going deeper within ourselves into our working with the unconscious to basically have more connection to our deeper selves, which is already there within us, but we're not conscious of it. We're making that conscious, and then we can have a different life and different choices and different experiences.
And what's great about the coaching model is that you don't have to wait to be depressed or anxious, that you can apply this model of transformation when you're ready to do it, when you're ready to go to the next level in your life. And it's a great way to work because you know, it's not necessarily that there's anything wrong with you. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You simply want to express the fullness of your potential.
Yes. So it's a potential-based program that actually works with the unconscious, but in a positive, potential-based way versus I need to heal what's in there. That we're full, like nothing in us is broken. It's just, we just learn to do things maybe that that's not aligned with our adult life.
Yeah.
And it's we all should do it. I mean, it's a natural process everyone goes through, but if you have a coach to help you guide you, you're really working in a bigger way to basically expedite that process and be more of yourself.
Absolutely. So what does it have to do with yoga? Well, Jung was very much influenced by Eastern philosophy. If you read his works, you see throughout that he's reading Eastern documents, Eastern literature, the classics, as well as the Upanishads, the Gita. Yeah, he's just an incredible absorption of ancient philosophy. And then putting it into work, because what he recognized in Eastern philosophy was a very sophisticated way of understanding the mind-body. So,
well, one other thing I want to say too about yoga, which is the same thing with the Jungian, is that we're coming from that coaching model versus therapy model. But in yoga too, I see that it's in the Western culture. A lot of it is medicalized and kind of used as kind of a kind of healing, and yoga really is about the potential as well. It's about that we have these tools of our mind that we can use.
Yeah, I thought we'd focus on Iyengar's work, B.K. Iyengar's, because he's been really kind of the main person that brought Hatha Yoga to the West. And you recognize his work in all these yoga studios around us that we see here in California and worldwide, of course. One point to remember as we go through these ideas in yoga, their point of view was very different than the point of view that we have now of the body and the mind. So in the West, we have basically a materialistic perspective or philosophy on the mind-body, that we believe, well, we are this physical body, and the physical body is existing in a physical universe. And then the mind is kind of in our brain looking out through our eyes and sensing the world. Nothing wrong with that model. It works really well. As you can see, we've created great things in the West. But the ancients, the ancient seers, and especially Patanjali, who wrote the Yoga Sutras, his perspective and their perspective was that it's a conscious universe. Everything is rising out of a primal awareness, and then we experience our mind-body within that primal awareness. So it's very different. And so if you want to understand what were the Yoga Sutras talking about and what does yoga mean, you have to take that perspective. So we invite you to kind of shift that perspective and think about everything is being alive, everything is being consciousness and emerging or existing in this primal consciousness, this primal awareness. So it's an aware universe, essentially.
And that's what we teach in our work, in our method, is everything's consciousness. So what we're seeing in the world is in us, and that it actually makes things so much easier as a coach, because you're not trying to chase something externally or rearrange the furniture out in the world. All you need to do is shift inside, and the experience changes. So what would you say, how does they see this kind of the body and yoga?
Yeah, so Patanjali was writing about 250, the year 250 of the Common Era, which is relatively recent.
Yeah.
Compared to the Upanishads, which go back a few more thousand years before that. So it's really what is now called Raja Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. And Iyengar codifies it as the 8 limbs of yoga.
Okay.
Or many studios now teach this Ashtanga Yoga also as the 8 limbs of yoga. So I figured we talk about that, and you can go through each kind of principle, each limb of the yogas, and then we can kind of have a conversation about it.
Sounds good. 8 limbs.
The 8 limbs of yoga, yes. So it begins with this principle of yama. So yama, we can think about it as the moral code. So you want to prepare yourself for yoga by living a good life. And some of the moral codes
so don't kill people, don't steal.
Non-violence, non-coveting, sounds very familiar, right, to the Ten Commandments.
The 10 Commandments.
Non-stealing, telling the truth, meaning not lying. In other words, don't be a bad person.
Don't be a liar, a murderer, and steal from people.
Yes.
That's a pretty good set of rules there.
It's a good set of rules because,
it's like a compassion for all living things and
right,
respect.
and we know from philosophy that let's say morality is not the same as spirituality, but that you have to start with being a moral person in order to develop your spirituality.
You can't be you see people that even have had crimes, and then they feel like that kind of guilt, and then they kind of have their kind of dedication. Now I'm going to be a good person, so they have to start off with the first, that I'm going to dedicate and commit to be a good person. I also think from a consciousness standpoint, if we're all one consciousness, to steal, hurt others, harm others, or to lie, we're really just kind of harming ourselves if we see ourselves as one with everything. So from a consciousness standpoint, it makes a lot of sense not to create harm in others, because we're really hurting ourselves.
Yeah, that's a good point. That this moral code helps us get along in society.
So, and then also just from a spiritual perspective, you're having the right understanding.
Yeah, you're putting yourself on the right track, and you're setting the intention that I'm going to follow the righteous path. Absolutely. Then the second limb is niyama. So it's the first one is yama, and this is niyama. And the difference is that this is more individual. So you stop doing the bad things. You stop lying, stop cheating.
Why are you looking at me?
If you're doing those things, not that you're doing those things, right? But you want to consciously make an effort. But then you start to cultivate the good things. You start to cultivate purity, contentment.
That's a hard one for a lot of people.
Yes.
Just to be content, because the mind is always looking for things to be dissatisfied with. And so to have that contentment is something that we have to intentionally, well, like we're waiting for contentment to happen, but we have to basically intend to be content.
That's right. That's definitely in the Eastern philosophies, that it sees us as definitely having these great qualities, but that you have to cultivate them. They're not going to come out just naturally. Our base instincts are very primal, meaning it's about us and it's about aggression and competition, and that if you want to follow this spiritual path, you have to cultivate this. So purity, contentment, austerity, study, meaning study of the higher knowledge, and devotion, dedication, meaning
it's not just about me. And,
discipline.
Yeah, and I love that discipline too, that you're taking on the discipline of practice. I think too much in the coaching industry right now, personal development industry, it's all about quick fix. I want to just fix my life in 90 days, and there's and I think just in our culture we just want that quick satisfaction, and we've lost that sense of commitment to our own path and our own practice, and that it's a lifelong practice, not just I only do these things when I'm feeling bad. That kind of like I'm going to pick up my yoga or meditation when I'm stressed out, but then when everything's going well with my life, I'm going to drop it, or I'm only going to read when I'm in a spiritual crisis, and then when everything's going well, let's plan our vacation to the Bahamas and not worry about it. So it is that I think we all have to make a commitment to that niyama.
Yama and niyama, yeah. So now imagine this, that's only the preparation now for the asanas. And the asanas are the positions, the actual physical practice of yoga. So the primary aim of asana, or the practice of asana, is to make the body flexible, make sure all the organs and systems are working optimally, strengthen the body, make it strong enough for real focus and dedication that's going to come later.
And it's important, because if you don't have a body, and it's not healthy, where's your soul going to live? How are you going to experience this life if your body you need the healthy body. And also for meditation practice, you need to, if you have illness, it's harder to focus and work with your mind if you're in pain or suffering or all those things. So the healthier you are, the easier it is to reach higher states.
Absolutely. And we know from research, like we were saying, it helps with anxiety and depression. So what it does, it stabilizes the nervous system, this practice of asanas. And of course, the more practice along with the moral codes, you're living a more pure life. In other words, the purer nature in our mind is beginning to shine forth, to come to the surface. So alignment of the body and that mental stability, all this is done by the practice of the asanas.
Yeah, the breathing, focusing, also like kind of the coordination, and that kind of their mind and body are starting to connect.
Balance.
Yeah, and just focus, like the balance and all those things. It's like you're preparing that mind to the physical body to be balanced, and then we're going to go to the next level. But we need that. It's like warms you up, because it's a very tangible place. Where do you place your breathing? Where's your body? Like for me, when I do yoga, I'm fully in my body. I can feel every muscle and everything, like even the midsection we don't pay much attention to, but like doing the twists, and you're feeling the lungs go in and out. I mean, it's a beautiful practice to focus and center, and I think there's a love to the body too. Like you're honoring your body, this beautiful vessel that you get to live in.
Yeah, it is a very different approach from a lot of spiritual systems that denigrate the body. They see the body as a burden, as something to castigate, to
beat,
mortify. And here we're saying, or this philosophy is saying, no, the body should be respected. It's part of the spiritual experience of being a human being. And as such, you should take care of it. And you should use your intelligence to look out for it and to bring it to its full flowering. And so you mentioned breathing, but this is the next stage. Pranayama, it's working with the breath to direct the vital energy in our body.
So it's that subtle energy between the body and the mind, is that kind of energetic breath. And even if you do the breath work, you feel the breath going through every cell, like it's like part of you, and it's like energetic.
Very powerful.
Beautiful. Yes.
And we know from research and from psychology, the psychology of the emotions, breathing is tied to the unconscious emotional life in us.
It's also tied to when you breathe and you're in pain. Breathing actually helps lower the pain in your body. Like if you have cramps, or I know I used to do a lot of hypnosis for childbirth in my early career. That's really
did you do the Lamans?
I didn't do the Lamans, but I did more the mind. But breathing is a part of that. And then if you feel like if you're feeling stress or any kind of stress, that is, someone's posting that they have some heart palpitations. This is not about medical. We're not addressing medical issues. So I would say I would speak to a medical professional about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you're going to begin a practice of yoga, you should check with your medical doctor and get it checked off. You know?
Yeah, we're talking about the yoga philosophy, not treating something. So definitely get in touch with a professional if you have some anything physical showing up.
Yes, but the research shows that it does help with heart problems. So there's some research even that it looked at reversing actual heart disease, which is an incredible idea to actually...
Well, even like diabetes and all those... stress and arthritis.
So it's a very powerful way of working with your mind body, but definitely you want to start on the right track by getting your doctor on board and then finding a good teacher to practice with. So pranayama, it is about the breath, but it's more than that, again, because remember the Patanjali, the developer, or he was really the codifier who brought in a lot of the information available at that time on different yogas, kind of put it all together in his book, the sutras, the Yoga Sutras. He was talking more about a conscious universe. Again, a conscious mind body, not a physical body separated by that the mind was separate from the body, but that what we experience when we call the body, or what we experience in or as our body, is a conscious manifestation. Right? It is the physical appearance of the mind, in essence. So the prana is more like the life force, not only the oxygen, right? Not only the oxygen circulating in our system, but it is the life force that animates the body. So that's the fourth limb.
The life force.
The fifth limb is pratyahara. Now here we're starting to get into more what looks like meditation.
So first, we're setting the intention that to be good. 3 was letting go of the bad, moral, setting the intention for higher knowledge and study and growth. And then the third is we're working with the body and the asanas. And then the fourth is working with the breath. Now we're getting to the mind.
Yes, and pratyahara it means drawing in our senses. I love one of the analogies they use is that it's like a turtle drawing in its limbs and its head and its tail into its shell. Because if you look at the way we live in the world, our senses are always directed outward. We're always looking at objects, looking at things out there. We're always after stuff out there. So in meditation and this kind of yoga, we're drawing them in. We're taking them back in. It's beginning that self-inquiry process of looking inward. In the Upanishads, it says that what we want to do is turn this big ship of the senses
facing outward.
Yeah, we want to turn it inward, turn the spotlight inward into our own mind. And so this stage it's actually a stage of practice, meaning once you master enough of your body through asana work and through breath work, now you start to focus on the mind and turn it inward.
And I think because if we don't do the initial kind of setting it up, it's really hard to focus because you're still anxious about what's going on in the world. Now, on our channel, there is a third eye meditation where you do just that, where you practice pulling the mind in. So it's another video in our channel if you want to check that out. Rob did a beautiful job of pulling the senses inward, if you want to have that experience.
Yes. And you start to see then what is the real purpose of yoga. It definitely has all these side benefits of health and wellness and the steadiness of the nerves and all that. But really the ultimate goal is a lot different. It is self-realization. It is from the word yoga, right? It's related to yoking. It's yoking our individual essence with the divine essence, with the universal mind. After the fifth, after you start to
pull everything in,
and you're able to do this consistently, then the sixth limb of yoga is called dharana, making your mind one-pointed. So it's essentially what we think of as concentration. But of course, because now you're working with your inner mind, it's not concentrating on an external object. It's concentrating on an internal object. So an internal object can be a great idea.
There's like a practice of a virtuous object.
A virtuous
you could
object.
hold an image of a symbol, a light, a candle, focusing on that to have that one-pointed mind. And I remember when we used to do a lot of meditations in different places we would go, Zen and Buddhist and Vedanta. Some of them were about focusing just on a spot on the wall. You just pick a spot on the wall and just focus, and you're letting your mind just kind of everything fall away. And there's something incredible. It's like you're focused on nothing basically, except that one point, and then it's like an emptying of the mind. It's like an unburdening of all the worries and concerns of the waking world, and you're just kind of going into that silence, which is very beautiful. And the reason why I want to add in, like, what does this have to do with coaching, is that we work with the mind in coaching. And if the client doesn't know how to focus, they don't know how to, if they're constantly like chasing objects in the world and they don't know how to settle their mind, they're not going to have the transformation they need to kind of have the patience and the commitment to actually get the transformation, because their mind is so unsettled. And I find that the more people can focus, the more effective they are with their visualizations, with working with active imagination, with being able to be grounded when things are kind of in the world getting a little chaotic. They're not like sucked in so easily, and they're able to basically easily extract themselves from that ego reaction and start to really pull in these higher principles of their mind. But it's like almost like the yoga gives us a practice to get the mind basically as a tool, fine-tuning us so that we can do the individuation process.
Yeah. I love also the analogy of a chariot with 5 horses. And the horses, of course, are the senses. And the chariot is our body. We have to be able to take the reins. Otherwise, the one is pulling one way and another one is pulling another way, or they're taking you down the path of conditioning, meaning your past experiences. Yoga was designed to help you take the reins of that chariot. So you're able to drive it consciously. Very different experience than letting your senses simply run amok. So that ability to focus, to say, this is where I want you to stay. Right, it's like when you train a dog and you tell it stay, and it stays. You put a little
biscuit on its nose, and you're just like, it's staying there. That's one pointed. The focus, yeah. And so if you can do that with just it's like an instrument. The mind is that instrument that we're having an experience in this world. If it's all over the place, and it doesn't matter if you can feel good feelings or run away from bad feelings, but if your mind is not disciplined, it's going to be hard to really have momentum in your personal growth and your spiritual growth, because your mind is still like a monkey mind and pulling you in all directions. So these practices are very, very important as part of a whole system versus just quick fix.
Yeah, and a lot of us resist discipline because we think it's the opposite of freedom.
Yeah.
But it's actually...
like a burden.
Yeah, it's actually the only way to have freedom. If you are not disciplined, or you don't discipline your mind, it won't do what you ask it to do. It will do what it wants to do. Like an untrained dog or a horse that just kind of carries you
or like
along.
A cat who does whatever it wants. If you ever watch cat videos, they're all over the place. That's kind of
one of the best movies we saw a while back was that Life of Pi, where he's stuck with a tiger. It's a metaphor of working with the mind. If you don't tame it, it will eat up your time. It will eat up your energy.
You'll be afraid of it. You'll be afraid of life, and
But if you take the time to discipline and train that tiger, then you can coexist with it, and it gives you meaning, it gives you power, all that good stuff. So that's only the 6th limb. So we still have a couple of limbs to go.
What's the next limb?
So once we practice the asanas, meaning we've created or started to create a healthy mind body, and then we're able to work with our breath in order to really steady the mind and create states of mind that are beneficial and energetic. Then we start to focus the mind, to draw in the senses, and to focus them wherever we want to. For example, if we're studying higher knowledge, we can think of a great idea or some great insight that we learn from that higher knowledge and concentrate on it.
Yeah. So if you have, let's say, young, until you make the unconscious consciousness will direct your life, and you'll think it is fate, to meditate on that idea, for example, or meditate on the idea that we're all one, we're one with everything, or everything is consciousness. It gives your mind a place to focus, and then it arises, the wisdom will arise through that focus.
Then you get to the 7th limb, which is dhyana. And that is what the ancients called meditation. Dhyana. So we see that preparation, right, for this deeper meditation. this kind of training of the mind body in a very systematic way.
And that's why we do that Tadasana after yoga. After you do the exercise, you go into that meditative state because you've worked with all the other limbs. You know, we're kind of setting the intention, we're good people, you know, all those things. And then we're working with the body, working with the breath, focusing one point, and then we relax into that state.
Yes. I think this is a little bit different. This would be done in that full lotus position.
Oh, okay.
And very,
instead of laying back.
Yes. But there are many variations, of course, and there's many, many different schools. This is just based on Iyengar's.
So you would go the yoga, you do the yoga, and then you would sit up and do the concentration, which actually I think is different than the laying back. It's more of a letting go. But the concentration you're talking about is with the straight back and all those things that it's not fully comfortable. It's like it's an awakened, more of awakened state of meditation, like where you're kind of being very aware of your body and its positioning and all that.
Yes, you do have to be very conscious of the positions of the body so that you don't fall asleep, right? So that you're in an awake and alert state, but you're looking inwards.
Okay.
So what's going on in this kind of meditation is you're now consciously experiencing the source of your awareness, the pure awareness. And pure awareness, pure consciousness is like water. Whatever you pour it into, it takes that shape. So now, with that power of concentration and focus, you start to focus and meditate or concentrate on the divine essence. So now, because your individual expression of consciousness is taking that shape, you become one with the divine through this kind of meditation. So that's the objective. That is self-realization in this context.
And then whatever you focus on in that, talk about like your thoughts create your life. Whatever intention you have in that state is more powerful than in the scattered brain state of just fear and all that.
Yes and no, but because in that state there's nothing to gain.
Yeah.
If you are the universal divine, what are you lacking?
But you can have but we do have a physical body, so we have to create in this world. So to have that access to that higher state and be in the world at the same time would be beneficial, don't you think? Because then you can work with creativity and
absolutely,
abundance and all those things.
Yes, but
that's not the goal.
Exactly. That's all I'm saying. That wasn't the intention of the Patanjali's yoga. The intention was the freedom from that conditioning.
Yeah.
Right, of the mind body.
But when you're free from that conditioning, more things are possible.
Yeah. So there's even one more limb then, which is samadhi.
I know Wayne Dyer talks a lot about, or used to talk a lot about samadhi.
Yeah. Because it is the ultimate state of being. It's complete absorption into the divine.
Like a blissful state?
Very much the bliss, yeah. In the Upanishads, the self, the true self, is described as existence, consciousness, bliss. Now, here's the important part, that it's not saying that the self exists. It is saying the self is existence itself.
The beingness.
Yes. In other words, you're not reaching a state of beingness. You are beingness itself, which is very different.
Yeah. Because if you were being, that means there's an opposite of non-being.
Yeah.
So, but you're just, there's nothing, you're never not being.
Right.
You're eternal.
It's that non-dual state.
So when we're in the very lower states, we feel separate. We feel scared. We feel outside. The world has so much power. And what this process does, these 8 limbs, is brings us to that state of oneness with everything, of our true nature.
Yeah. Samadhi.
And so when we talk about these 8 limbs, is that something that someone would do in one practice? They would set the intention, do all these things. And, how is this practical for everyone here? How would we apply this knowledge, these 8 limbs?
Well, yeah, it is a discipline. So like any discipline, you start where you're at. Mm-hmm. So obviously if like this person that wrote about their concerns about their health, if that's where you're at, that's where you start. Meaning you start with the asanas to regain that sense of health and balance, and then you move up the scale.
Doing the physical yoga and then the breathing and all that other stuff.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So it's a very practical, methodical method. No, obviously, if you don't have any health concerns, then you start, maybe at the higher level, meaning you go through that process, but you're going through it quicker.
Really quicker.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a problem with morality, like I can't stop lying and stealing from people, I would start there.
Yeah, right? Of course. We all start there in a sense.
In a sense, we have this sense of I want to be a virtuous person and be compassionate to others and see others as myself. Even in Christianity, they say, treat your brother like yourself, that kind of thing. And then the second one would be the commitment. And I think that's really where I think most of us that do personal development, we have the moral. We all want to be good people. We're not stealing and all those things. But I think for most people, where they have to begin is, am I committed to a practice of personal growth? I'm not just in it, because I've known so many people, I used to do a lot of love coaching, and I know a lot of people who just did personal development because they wanted to find a partner. And then as soon as they found their partner, they were like, I'm done with working on myself. They didn't develop themselves. They didn't continue. Not everyone, but there are people that were just like using the spiritual principles to get material things. And then when they got the material things, they were gone. And what we're saying here is that if you really want true peace in your life forever, you have to start with that commitment and that dedication, that this is not just when I get the goodies, I'm doing this until I get the goodies. You're doing this because you have something bigger than just the goodies. You want to have enlightenment. And so that's where we would start. And then the next step is doing the asanas, finding a way, even if you do a few, like downward dog a day or stretching, what would you recommend from from that asana perspective? What someone can do at home? There's a lot of yoga videos. What would you say would be a practice for people? Yeah, and for coaches, if they have clients, what would they?
Yeah, again, it would depend on where you're at physically. Mm-hmm. And the great thing about
chair yoga.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If that's all you can do, I used to work with this young man who was paralyzed from the neck down, quadriplegic.
Wow.
And we used to do the mental parts of the yoga.
Like he would imagine in his mind doing the asanas?
Something like that. But it's more of the focus, right? And the gaining understanding. Because if you look at what the yoga philosophy says about personal development, right? That personal journey that you're taking through yoga, there are obstacles, and the primary one is ignorance, that we don't know what the nature of the mind is. Mm-hmm. So that practice in itself it begins wherever the person is at. Mm-hmm. If they don't know anything about the nature of the mind, so that commitment
to study about the mind,
yes,
and that understanding,
learn. Yeah. Not only study it, but to really understand it, right? In the Upanishads, it says the stages are like this. You first hear about this information, this knowledge, or you read it, or somebody tells it to you. But that's you're not going to stop there, because that's just kind of intellectual understanding. Then it says you contemplate it, meaning you think about it. You spend time mulling it over, asking, how does this fit into my life? What do I do with this? What does this mean about the nature of the mind, the nature of reality? Then the third stage is you do the meditation. You hold it in your mind as, wow, is this really true? And can I hold this truth as an absolute reality?
And so for a coach understanding the yoga philosophy, what would you say? Someone who, we get a lot of people that do our coach training that have backgrounds in yoga. So how do you see them integrating?
Well, in our work, we integrate the Eastern philosophy into the Jungian coaching. So I see it as Jung's model gives us a personal way to start the process. Where the psychological, psyche, understanding our personal history and shadow and ego and that kind of thing. And the personality and our personality, and what do we do with the triggers and the challenges at work and with my family and at home and all this,
the practical human problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is very much like that purification, which leads us then to the deeper understanding. Well, okay, then what is the nature of the mind? And how do I work with the mind?
Yeah, I think that the merging for me is that I knew all this knowledge intellectually, this kind of your unlimited potential, you're one with everything. I mean, we've all heard this a million times. And I think the Jungian, kind of working it out with the things in your life, the triggers, the people that are triggering you, the conflicts that show up. It kind of gives you a direct experience of these higher yogic principles of oneness, of higher knowledge, of consciousness. And it's that what we need as a human being, we have a workshop of human problems to work with, and we don't want to see them as something that needs to be healed or something wounded or anything bad. More about, this is human life, this is the ego, and how do we use all these human problems as a way to reach this higher state, versus how do I just fix the problems to have a better human life? It's more like using the problems as a teacher for us to understand who we really are. And I think that's where I love the uniqueness of it, is because if you just study Eastern philosophy, they don't really get into the personality and the past history. It's all about just these high concepts. But if you just work on therapy or, your past, there's no high concept there either. So you're just working and rearranging the furniture. But it's the merging of the high concept, high consciousness, and the personal merging together, so you can have a direct experience of your own divine nature. That's what I see it as. And so, one other question I have for you, Rob, before we go, is that I know a lot of people that study yoga study the chakras, and I know we talk about that. So what do you see in what they teach in yoga, and how does that apply? Because there's a lot of people that teach yoga, and they're interested in yoga philosophy, and they kind of work with the chakras. And how did the yoga philosophy see chakra system? And there's a specific type of yoga that talks about chakra.
I mean, the chakras come from Tantric yoga. And Tantric yoga, you see it in not only in traditional Hindu yoga, but also in Buddhism. Which is a different school. Tantra essentially goes back to these two principles, that you have pure consciousness, which is Shiva, and you have the material manifestation, or what appears to us as the material manifestation of Shakti. So Shiva and Shakti are these two principles that we're working with. And the Kundalini then, which is the that primal energy, the creative energy that is at the base of the spine. The objective of tantric yoga or tantric meditation is to bring that up to consciousness, to awareness.
And what's interesting is the Kundalini is often represented as a snake, which in myth and symbolism in Jungian psychology, the snake represents higher knowledge.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's that kind of bringing in. So the idea that the chakras are mental construction.
Yes, again because
physical.
The paradigm that the tantric philosophy was developed in was again a conscious paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
They did not see the body as a physical entity.
Mm-hmm.
So we see, for example, in the West, people trying to connect it to the glands and stuff. There's nothing wrong with it. There probably is some connection to those things, but the original philosophy was not developed in the
like a medical model.
Yeah, but exactly, it wasn't a medical model. It was that consciousness is primary, and then the body arises out of that.
So instead of trying to fix the body or the physical, like a physical chakra, to heal it or something, we start with the consciousness, and that pours out to. So we're kind of like it's just like the medical model of, oh, you have like cancer, let me give you chemicals and let me treat the body without treating the mind. And so we want to remember that this is really about consciousness. Everything's consciousness and everything's potential, and moving through from the inside out versus the outside in. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and here I'm only speaking of the origins of these ideas.
Yeah.
Now, throughout the years, of course, there's been a lot of different schools that have developed different modalities based on the chakra system and the Kundalini and other tantric ideas. So there's definitely room for experimentation and growth. And that's what I love about Eastern philosophy, is that it is a philosophy, and it's essentially always saying, experience this for yourself. Find it in you, in your own practice.
But I think ultimately, whether you're doing psychology or yoga philosophy, that the whole message is that in life, we're conditioned early in life to fix things externally and fix very mechanically, move things around in the world so that we can have peace of mind. But in yoga and Jungian, it's more, no, it's coming from the inside out versus the outside in. And I think that's what you say when we pull the attention to out from the outside, the senses inward, we're really reclaiming the power. And the reason why we have anxiety and stress and anger and all these emotions and relationships that have conflicts is because we misperceive who we are. And if we start from the right understanding, the outside flows and everything will be in balance. But we got to get back to the root versus just working on the symptoms, which is, I think, a lot of what I did when I was first doing personal development was all about just, putting Band-Aids on the oh, I feel stressed. Let me do this meditation. Oh, like I said, you pick up the self-help when you're in like a, you have a breakup or you stress about money and you're not like kind of committed to the higher evolution of who you are and connecting to that higher place. And we're almost like settling for crumbs when we have the universe and potential inside of us to access. We settle for the little things in life when we can have the universe.
Yeah. So it's encouraging to see how many people are interested in yoga and how many people practice it, not only in the U.S. but worldwide, and it seems to be growing and growing. So we definitely want to encourage yoga teachers and yoga students to continue on this path. It's a great way to live, to live as a lifestyle, very healthy. It has great benefits, but also to take it deeper. So wherever you are at on the path, commit to going to the next level. Right? If you're practicing once a week,
once a month,
go to the next level and practice more. If you only know the basics of the philosophy, commit to learning more about it, to going deeper into the philosophy.
Do you have a book that you would recommend with the yoga? Is that the sutras?
Actually, the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are very difficult to read, but the Iyengar's work is very accessible.
Okay.
He wrote a couple books before he died. He only died a few years ago. One is called Light on Life.
Ooh, I love that book. That was a great book.
Yeah, the other one is The Tree of Yoga. Great books to delve deeper into the philosophy.
Great. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you all of you for your questions, and we hope you feel at ease. If you do have always something wrong physically, this is not to replace medical treatment. I just have to say that you should, if there's something in your body that doesn't feel right, you should always seek, help from a professional. But also one of the big benefits of yoga meditation is that it helps put the body back in balance. It's not to treat illness per se, because it's not a medical system. We have to legally say that, but it's more, we know that the more you take care of your mind and the body, the healthier you'll be, the longer you'll live, and the happier you'll be, the more bliss you'll have in your life.
Yeah, and one last thing that for those yoga teachers out there, or people that just want to incorporate yoga into their work, our Jungian coaching model fits perfectly with the yoga philosophy. It's very amenable. It's easy to integrate into a yoga practice, for both personally and for your clients.
Yes. So definitely check us out. And we'll see you on next week. We'll have another episode on the spiritual influences in coaching. I don't know, again, I forgot to look at the list of what we're doing next week, but we have some really great, the next couple of weeks, great topics. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Stay warm. And
stay well.
Stay well. Take care. Bye-bye.